Alright guys, we're back. So if you watched the last episode, we got cut off before I could show you the other project car. So here it is, guys. We're 187 of these ever produced, and that's confirmed by Honda. 187 units. That is a rare Type R, and that's why I wanted one. But I ended up with two. So this one came in similar condition, but it was high mileage. I bought this car first. And when it came, I'll post some pictures. I'll show you what it looked like. It was nice when it arrived. Interior was good. Zero rust. It's from Vancouver. I really liked it when I saw it. I'm like, okay, 25 Canadian. Ended up paying 27 because I know the value of things, so I never want to get in a bidding war with anyone. So it's up for 25. I paid 27 for it. I guess it was okay of a deal when I saw it first. I saw the history. It was clean. The history of the car was clean when I got it, but when I got it home, I did a little bit more research. Vancouver has ICBC. It's not a private insurance company. It's like a state-run insurance company. So they don't show up on Carfax or CarProof. And it had zero history on it until I bought the ICBC report. ICBC report showed, I think, 3 claims, I'm not sure, but it was bad. And I'm about to show you how bad it was. So what got me started on this car was I was going to leave it as is, restore it, paint correction, all these things, get it up to keeping a way I would want to keep a car. I don't know, like to a decent standard. Well, my standard. But I couldn't get the hood to line up. It had a. Let me just walk outside real quick. It had a gap. So you can see this car lines up because this car doesn't have frame damage. When you look down on that car, there was a gap here. You can see down to the bottom, to the street, through these gaps here, the bumper. So what I did was, I tried to align up the car as straight as I could. So I started at the door, so I lined up the door. Let me flip it over. So I lined up the car properly with this line, this body line, second body line here, and up here. So it's completely flat. This side doesn't have any accident damage. It's all original panel with VIN number, and I've inspected both sides of the panel. So I lined it up. You always want to line up this line here first, and then you want to line up the fender with the door as straight as possible and make some adjustments. And then you would get to the bumper. You don't want to align with the bumper. So when I redid everything to line it up, I couldn't get the hood and the bumper to line up for the life of me. I couldn't figure out what was wrong with the car. And then I noticed it had an aftermarket fender. And that's what was causing the problems for alignment. When I removed the aftermarket fender and got an OEM one from the junkyard because I couldn't track down a new one, I put it on the old fender was shimmed with washers. So as I tracked it down, as I tracked the alignment issue down, it came to the rad support. The rad support was causing issues. The funny thing is, it didn't have this on the right side. So the hood was actually hitting this. The hood would come down and it wouldn't use this. So that means something was too high. And because I removed the spacers, these couldn't be run. So it would hit this. I'm going to go around the side of the house to show you what was going on with it. So let's see what kind of junk we have here. Overexposure alert. Just gonna put this down on the ground so I can explain to you what has happened with it. Just gonna flip the camera. Okay. So, if we look at it this way, this is the top of the rad support. And if we're looking at the car, that would be it. Okay, so that side, it was good. It was straight. This side is a bit bent now. But the issue here was there was a 1-inch gap between this and the top of the rad support. So it would like bend down and there'd be an inch. This was not connected. This was not connected to the top of the rad support. And it basically, after the accident, it looks like they cut, as you can see there, they cut the rad support right down here. Made an adjustment, either squished it or increased it and welded it back together. So that made the top of it not line up. And it took a while to figure out exactly what was wrong, but I measured everything. You can see my work, but that was done last year. I'm pretty far along with the car now. I've had the car for less than a year, and I've pretty much restored everything except the body. I left the body as the last thing. It doesn't take very long. Some of the metal work does take a while, but I'm pretty quick with it. So let's get back in the garage. Alright, so we're back in the garage. So I put the front end back on, so I removed that front end. I lined it up, made sure the car was flat, measured it many times, so there wasn't any twisting. Put the hood back on, put the bumper on, and aligned it up, just so I know this car is going to be straight when it's done. Also, big pet peeve is when a frame shop does work on a car, a lot of them, not all of them, will plug weld. So they'd put holes in, and then you'd fill it with a MIG welder until that hole fills up, and that joins the two. I wanted this to look exactly stock. I have a reference car there, which I matched the spot welds exactly the same as stock. So you actually cannot tell that this car has been molested. And that's not filled. This is just epoxy primer on top. So I prepared it. I sprayed it with copper so there wouldn't be any rust behind it. And I went through and spot welded it all. So this front end is intact. This side too. Clean spot welds everywhere. So it's straight. So the front end is straight. This wheelhouse was replaced, and they didn't do a very good job. Like, we'd have welds here on the edge, a seam weld with a MIG welder, seam welds here. I went through, filed it all out, cleaned it all up. This was squashed out. I think this wheelhouse might be aftermarket. This was squashed. I reshaped it with a die. This is not filled or cleaned up yet. This is just epoxy primer after I did the work. So it looks stock now. It has been hammered and dollied out quite a bit. I spent a lot of time making it look stock. I used the TIG welder to fill up some holes. Yeah, so it looks really good now. Okay, with all that done, I've scuffed the engine bay. I've literally removed everything. That's not even connected to the car anymore. It's just sitting there because I have no place to store it. Yeah, that's the only way you're going to get a decent paint job. And also you want to note, when you're restoring a car, how it was sprayed from factory. You can see down here, it's a lot lighter because paint didn't reach down there. So you got to also note the luster of the paint. If it was had a lot of clear coat, it did have a lot of clear coat because it was resprayed. So I don't want it to look like it has a bunch of clear coat when it shouldn't. So I'm going to note that down when I respray it, how to respray it, because you can see you can still see the original color of the seam sealer. The paint was so thin that wouldn't even cover that. So in order to make it look like an original, we wanted to spray the engine bay accurately as possible. So the engine bay is done, the front end's done. This was all scuffed up before I even put it on, so you won't have issues with spray sticking or not sticking. And I have a lot of photographs of what sections should look like, if this indentation should be there, and whatnot. Anyways, enough of that. Okay, so this car, this is skim coated. This is all coming off. So if we look on this side, this side was already skim coated. There's literally filler here left, a little piece there, and some fiberglass. I tend to run fiberglass along the edge instead of normal 3M filler because it's stronger, just in case it touches or someone brushes up against it and taps it too hard. It will break. The filler will break, but the fiberglass is a lot harder. So we run fiberglass along these edges here. Fiberglass along these edges. And then skim coat. It's a little rough because we have to skim coat it a bunch of times to get the car straight. So the car was impacted here. The door wasn't straight, and this wasn't straight. So we straightened the metal out, and you can see the line is there now. Before I didn't even have a line, it was so bad. The line is not created by the filler. The filler is actually laid on fairly thin. This area, the paint is still there because it takes so long to take the paint off. Because I had an impact here and I had an impact there, it was painted 3 times. So I've left this for you to see. So it's got original primer, original paint, and then it's got Bondo in the layers, and then it has another layer of paint, primer paint, so 3 layers. It's very thick and takes a long time to remove. I pretty much just wanted to do this section first, and then I'll grind the paint off it. It's so much paint that it needs to be ground off. The last accident is here. This whole area was worked by some maybe frame shop. I don't know, they did a horrible job. So this line was gone. This line was actually gone and recreated with fiberglass. So what I did was I repaired the metal finished it, made it look real good stock, as close as I could get, and then I epoxy primered and then laid on some filler. This is just the initial layer. I'm sure there's going to be the metal warped a little bit when I had to fill in some holes because it was too thin and there's a hole left there. But hopefully it'll be straight. If not, I'll massage it out a little bit more. The trunk lid had a lot of filler on it to make it line up with the fender. I've done a lot of metal work to it to get the lines right and the transition smooth. So this has no filler yet, and the line's pretty straight, and it lines up. No filler, just epoxy primer. Definitely needs a lot of work still, but I'll work on this, then I'll get to the trunk last. So this is a 2001 Integra Type R with 275,000 kilometers. It's super high mileage. Was nice, but I'm gonna make it nicer. That's it. Once again, we have to cut this one off short, so stay tuned for the next episode. I'm gonna be uploading it pretty much right away, and you get to see what I've been working on for this project. Stay tuned, guys.